The time has come for the cobra to rise up and reveal himself.
And they are, so they're choosing apples. By choosing apples, they are sacrificing, they are not producing oranges, which means the opportunity cost of 1 bushel of apple is 1/4 bushel of orange. So now we have all of their opportunity costs. When each nation chooses to produce one item, we have the opportunity cost of that item, how much of the other item is sacrificed. So now let's take a look at who has the comparative advantage. Whoever has the comparative advantage is going to have the smaller number, the lesser number. So, in terms of oranges, 2 is less than 4, so America has the comparative advantage in producing oranges. They are more efficient than Israel because they sacrifice less per unit made. And for apples, according to my measuring cups, 1/4 is less than a half. Israel has the comparative advantage in producing apples because for every apple they make, they only sacrifice 1/4 bushel of orange compared to America's 1/2. So, what is the trade implications of this? If that means that the USA will specialize in and export oranges and import apples. They will specialize in and trade some of what they make, what they're good at, which is oranges, while they import in exchange for apples. And Israel will specialize in and export apples in exchange for getting oranges. So now the question is, using these numbers, how do we come up with fair terms of trade? That if America would send 1, so what we have to do is we always work with the whole numbers. Those are easier. So let's find our whole numbers in the chart. And right here, that is the first column. And using this column, we are going to set up an inequality based off of the first producer's point of view. So we have America. We're just going to take this chart and turn this into an inequality. So the USA will trade 1 bushel of orange for, now the question we have to ask is, what will be fair to America and what will be fair to Israel? So the inequality will be, X is going to be the number, the 1 bushel of orange for X bushels of apples. And it must be between 2 numbers. First, let's start with the nation who's trading. So from America's perspective, so this is nation A's perspective. In this case, it's the USA. America, when it makes oranges, already gives up making 2 apples. So, America is going to want a number greater than it normally gets. America will benefit if, for every 1 bushel of orange it sends, America receives more than 2 apples in return. America would be benefiting because normally, to get 1 bushel of orange, sacrifices 2 apples. So, if America is going to send 1 bushel of orange, it wants more than its current opportunity cost. It wants more than it would normally do on its own. So it normally does 1 for 2. It would now want a number that is greater than 1 for 2. Israel, though, also, from perspective, has to be considered for Israel to have a fair trade. So the second half of the inequality would be nation B's perspective. And in this case would be Israel. From Israel's point of view, to get 1 bushel of orange, it sacrifices 4 bushels of apples. So for Israel to benefit, it would want a number that is below its opportunity cost. Israel would benefit if it trades less than 4 apples for 1 bushel of avocado. Because to get 1 bushel of orange, to get 1 bushel of orange, normally Israel would have to sacrifice 4 bushels of apples. But a fair terms of trade for Israel would be to get 1 bushel of orange, it gives up less than 4. So, a fair terms of trade would be America will trade 1 bushel of orange for anywhere between 2 bushels of apples, greater than 2, but that would benefit America, but less than 4. Less than 4 would benefit Israel. Fortunately, there is a number that exists between 2 and 4, and so the perfect terms of trade would be 1 bushel of orange for 3 bushels of avocados. Now on the AP test, it might ask you to come up with the fair terms of trade, or it might ask you, is the terms of trade acceptable to both parties? And if it does that, you have to consider each nation's or each party's point of view. Is it greater than their current opportunity cost? And also, is it less than their current opportunity cost for their current amount sacrificed? So what you have to do is really like a 3-step problem. You have to recognize it, set up the chart, the opportunity cost chart, and then create the inequality. But now let's just briefly go back to the PPC to take a look at our terms of trade and how this ratio will translate into each nation's gains of trade. So fortunately, there is a number that exists perfectly between 2 and 4. So now we can have our terms of trade of 1 bushel of orange for 3 bushels of apples. And now what that allows the nation to do, America trades 1 bushel of orange. So America gives up a bushel of orange.